When you saw this, you knew a video was coming. What's up, Meta Nerds? In this video, we're going to do our best to break down all the ships and vehicles seen in the new Episode 9 trailer. Not just in this epic scene, but the whole thing, though I did put a timestamp in the comments if you just want to jump to that. So first off, we have Rey jumping around inside of what I think must be the Death Star wreckage. A cool connection to the very first scenes we ever saw of Rey in Episode 7 trailers. Then we have this big powwow under what appears to be a CR-90, most likely the Tantive 4. You can tell by these escape pods, the landing gear, and the weapon locations. What's really cool is you can see all the little detail to show all the aging. Then we see this transport, with the horse-like creatures loading into it. We see these later in the trailer picking up the gang as they run across an ISD. We'll get to that later, but as to what this ship is, I've been looking all over and I can't find out anywhere. Doesn't look Mon Cala, or even Corellian in style, so I don't know, I'm just gonna shout Starhawk until that becomes true. Then we see Poe Dameron's T-70 X-Wing with a new paint job. No more black, but a good guy beige, and this is actually a model that you can get at Target. Checking that out, we can see a lot more detail, and that it cost $100. Then what I'd imagine has to be the Tantive 4 comes crashing through some trees. Why it's being piloted like this may show signs of distress, maybe it's under attack or it's just that old, but if you look close there are some really interesting details. See how when it smashes into the branches you see this bluish color emerge? Perhaps that is it going through the shields. I really hope so at least, because that would be some really neat little attention to detail. Then we see the Death Star wreckage with this really cool cannon, a variant that I don't think we've ever seen before. And then from here we see a new TIE Fighter variant. This has been released as the TIE Whisperer, and appears to be of the First Order, with the new TIE Dagger being a part of the mysterious Sith Force. With the name Whisperer, makes me think of a stealth TIE like the TIE Phantom, and you can see that a bunch of them are going to this icy location. We then see Imperial 1 Star Destroyers rising out of the ice, so I'd say this either points to a battle between the First Order and the Imperial forces, or the FO was secretly guarding this spot all along. And now we arrive at the main event. Just a nice humble plug here for the video we released on September 1st, which also happens to be the anniversary of this channel, where I laid out that all the canon evidence points to the most epic space battle in Star Wars history being in Episode 9. And behold. So by the time that I'm writing this, there isn't a lot out, but there are some people on Twitter like Admiral Nick22 that have pointed out some of these ships. Check out a link to him in the description. I'll point out a couple more, make some educated guesses on the rest, and just some pure fun speculation on some really interesting things I saw. I think the easiest way to do this is to eliminate ships one by one while showing the repeats. So of course this is the Falcon with a new dish, but over here is the Ghost from Rebels. Perhaps Jacen Syndulla or even Hera or Sabine are piloting it. Ezra and Thrawn may be a stretch, but I guess it's possible. Then we have this Nebulon B-like ship. At first I thought Disney has to cut E.C. Henry a check, with this closed-in lower section being similar to his Imperial Nebulon design. But the sides and some other details make it not look like a Nebulon B, just something definitely inspired by it. That was made by Kuat Drive Yards, which has been New Republic property for over 30 years at this point in the story, so perhaps it's a new variant. Then right next to it, and repeated a couple times, is what might be the Vakbior class cargo frigate. It was in The Last Jedi, and by looking at these few images, we can see that if you angle this ship head on, you could get this shape. If we let the shot play out, you see that this antenna is also in the right place on the Vakbior. Now I've seen this called a Mon Cala cruiser. I don't see it, nor do I think it's the right size, but it could be Mon Cala design, like some sort of escort frigate. You really get a good look if I let it play, and you can see how it's repeated over here, with these interesting structures that point upward. Then we also see this simple but cool looking ship which I have no clue what it is. Please comment on that or any of these things if you think you spotted something new, or have a potential correction. Right here we have the Dornian gunship, the little guy that was forgotten in Episode 6, but fleshed out a lot more in Rebels. Where we also got the Lancer class pursuit ship. This was used by Mandalorians, which brings me to this thing. Now I see it as either an Aztec Wookiee gunship or the Halo used by the bounty hunter Sugi in the Clone Wars. But some people see it as an LAAT gunship variant or the Razor Crest from the new Mandalorian TV show. Right next to that we have the Eravana, the ship that Han was using while searching for the Falcon. And below that we get the U-Wing. These are the Virgilia class bunker busters from The Last Jedi, which people that watched our video on that know were incredibly powerful. They were nuclear bomb enabled, but weren't used in Episode 8. Now there's a ton of them, so let's see what happens. This is the Hammerhead Corvette from Rogue One, and you'll see a ton of them in the distance. This and the Aurora class freighter are some of the most repeated ships in this scene. If you let this part play out, you get a better shot of what I'm claiming to be the Aurora, though I do admit the bridge section seems a bit elongated. Now these also look like new Mon Cala ships, as well as this even larger one over here. Really interesting is what I've labeled 3, being either another Mon Cala design, or some sort of modified GR75. See how the top has the clam-like look of the GR75, but with this almost Nebulon-inspired extension, where the cargo would have been attached on the bottom. This too is repeated several times in the distance, looking like blimps with these long protrusions. Then we see one of the most hated of the new ships, the Star Fortress bomber. Over here are a bunch of Pelta-class medical frigates introduced in the Clone Wars, though I'd assume they were converted into warships like Jun Sato's and Rebels. If you let it play, you also get a much better shot of the Pelta up here. And then there's the Nebulon C over there, also introduced in Episode 8. Now what's even more interesting is the stuff that we don't know, like this seemingly new Corellian ship, which may be even more powerful than the Virgilia. I've heard it could be a Paladin-class corvette like we saw in the Clone Wars. That was of Old Republic origin, one of the few canon things you could say that about, and though that would be awesome, I just don't see it. The cockpit right here really makes me think otherwise. Next to it though, is this monster. I've done a couple videos on fuel tankers in Star Wars, and it does give me that kind of vibe. But then again, there is this rounded forward-facing opening, so maybe some sort of missile or torpedo spamming demon. Or like a focused beam weapon drawing on big stores of Tabana gas. I don't know, but it really looks cool. From there, we see this oddly shaped massive ship. It looks like it has these K-wing shapes sticking out of it, perhaps some sort of new deadly frigate. But more in the foreground, we see this other unique looking ship, so it makes me think it must be important in the film. But look at what an odd design it is, with these large bulky forward sections, and then these really thin wing-like structures sticking out of the sides. Then we have this guy, that reminds me of the Cantos class escort frigate design over on Fractal Sponge. It's not quite the same, but it's got the overall shapes and detail, and a lot of his designs have been incorporated into official LucasArts work before, appearing in the Essential Guide to Warfare, so maybe it's something like that. And last but certainly not least, we have this mysterious beauty. Looking at all those blue dots, it gives me a Coronet or Mon Cala vibes, so maybe some Royal Mandalorian ship, or just another addition from our fish friends. Or something even stranger. Let me know which one you think is the most interesting down below. I don't know why, but I'm just really entranced by this one. So now let's finish it up. We see what looks like an Imperial Star Destroyer viewing this explosion, and I don't think that's a ship. It has this bluish, cloudy look that might be exploding ice and vaporizing water, maybe the same ice location from earlier. And then we get this simple little craft that is like the ski speeder from Crate. Gotta stop and point out the B-1 battle droid, before we go to this scene with another type of speeder. And we get some of the best Y-wing footage ever, blowing apart what seems to just be a pair of regular ties, though they might be tie daggers. And of course the elephant gun in the room, this massive new weapon that was retrofitted onto Imperial 1 Star Destroyers. Then we see to be fleeing on horseback, for some incredibly odd reason, and it looks like they are coming across this section of the ISD. Then I think we're on Kylo Ren's flagship. It could be the inside of a CR-90, but something reads as more First Order. But the shape of these lights, this tech over here, all reads more as First Order. Likely this statue with what appears to be Vader's head on top was some sort of relic that Kylo Ren was drawing out dark side energy from. We go back to horseback, with the new tie daggers flying overhead, followed by a classic T-65B X-Wing and a B-Wing. Then finally, the horse transports that we saw in the beginning are landing on top of the ISD. So that's it for all the ships and vehicles, and B-1 battle droids, and horses, I guess. If you have anything to add that I may have missed, please put it in the comments. I'm sure there's tons of new stuff to discover. If you want to connect with us on social media, find ways that you can help support this channel without it costing you a thing, or check out our Patreon. Be sure to check out the links in the description. Special shout out to our supporters over on Patreon, but most important of all, remember, that epic battle is coming, meta nerds, and the Force will be with you, always.